Chop wood, carry water, Chapter 4. Artificial maturity. As the weeks passed, John grew more comfortable with life in the community. As his form straightened and improved, he was allowed to begin working with arrows, even though he and the other apprentices were limited to shooting only at practice targets, straw rolls only 7 feet away. But still, he persisted, trying to focus on everything each sensei taught him. One day, as he drew his bow, ready to release the arrow, snap! The bowstring split, leaving John with an unstrung bow. He quickly unpacked a new one from the apprentice's bowstring roll. Akira approached, watching with interest, as John unraveled the new bowstring, trying to make sense of it. He slowly raised an eyebrow. "John, have you done this before?" John shook his head, but he wasn't worried. "Not personally, but I've seen it done." "So you know how to restring it?" John beamed with confidence. "Of course! I've read about it dozens of times. And like I said, I've seen it too. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube." Calmly, Akira nodded. "Good. Then I will not stop you." Concentrating hard, John slipped the top loop of the new bowstring snugly over the top end of his bow. Then he knelt, gently bending the bow toward him as he guided the bottom loop toward the bow's bottom end. But as he tried to slip the knotted bowstring over the notch, he couldn't quite get it to fit correctly. It kept sliding all over the place, made even more difficult by the slick resin coating the brand new bowstring. John tried a few more times, getting more and more frustrated each time. Akira just watched in silence until finally John exclaimed in pure frustration, "What the heck is wrong with this thing? Why can't I get it to work?" Akira replied calmly, "Because, John, you only have ginosko of it." John thought he'd just heard wrong. "What?" Akira grinned. "If that sounded like Greek to you, that's because it is. Ginosko is a Greek word that means to have knowledge of something, as opposed to yada, which means knowledge gained through experiencing something. The two are very different." John nodded to his still unstrung bow. "I'll say they are." "Who would you want to go into battle with, John? Someone who has studied and read about war for 25 years? Or someone who has trained and experienced the front lines of battle?" "Well, when you put it that way, I want the person who has the real experience in battle," John said. An ancient warrior once said, "It is one thing to study war and another to live the warrior's life." In a world where anyone can look up information online, it's deceptively easy to gain knowledge. You can get pretty confident by reading everything you can get your hands on about a certain subject. It's called artificial maturity. But knowing about how to do something and having practical experience actually doing something are radically different. John sighed. "I guess I've got a long way to go." Akira smiled, handing John a pouch of fine granulated powder. "You might want to start with this. The powder gives the bowstring some grip and stops it from slipping off the wood." Excited, John coated the string with the powder, and as Akira guided him, finally slipped it over the wood, restringing the bow. With a grin, he leapt back to the firing line and began to practice again, thankful for such a kind and patient mentor.